welcome back to another week of Behind the Lens. I'm Debbie Elias, film critic, creator, and host of Behind the Lens, where we go behind the lens and below the line with the movers and shakers, those film and TV and streamer makers, the producers, directors, writers, actors, cinematographers, production designers, costume designers, film editors, sound mixers, stuntmen, VFX gurus, composers, and more. I'm very excited about this week's show. Just like I was excited about last week's show with Rennie Harlan and The Strangers Chapter 3, wrapping up his trilogy. And, of course, the wonderful Brian Fuller talking about Dust Bunny. Both films which I hope you have seen. The Strangers Chapter 3 in the theaters, and Dust Bunny from the comfort of your own couch or bed, snuggled up with your own little bunny. But this week, one of my favorites, director Kevin Lewis, I got to chat with him last week about his latest film, Misdirection. Now, this marks Kevin's third appearance on BTL Radio Show, after the brilliantly bonkers WILLY'S Wonderland and Pig Hill. But this time we're talking about Misdirection, which in many respects is a big departure from the horror films you've come to know and love from Kevin. Now, Misdirection is set over one long night in a glass-walled modern house, which, by the way, shot in Serbia. I love their architecture. Maybe I'm going to go to Serbia. And we follow a couple, Sara and Jason. Is it Jason? I think it is. Yes, it is Jason. I just had to quickly check my notes there. My brain just stopped for a second. And they've set out, they've been going on a series of high-end heists to pay off a dangerous mob debt. But with this latest break-in, they're targeting a prominent defense attorney. It spirals out of control. The pair find themselves caught in a web of secrets, deceptions, and deadly consequences. And it turns into a clusterfuck. This is not how you want your home invasion heist to go. And we learned that a few weeks ago in the film Relentless, Tom Bocci's film. Now, Glasshouse should offer clarity, but in Misdirection, it does the opposite. Reflecting, refracting, and distorting truth until every face becomes suspect. With a script by Lacy McClory, Kevin sets this sleek neo-noir thriller inside a space that promises transparency, but then weaponizes it, turning glass, marble, and open space into instruments of paranoia over the course of what feels like one never-ending long night. As Sara and Jason are planning this, they thought they have everything planned out perfectly for this final heist before they can take the money and run and start a new life somewhere. Well, and everything goes smoothly until things don't. Their target, wealthy lawyer David Blume, returns home unexpectedly and stops their escape in its tracks. But Blume is neither the easy mark they thought him to be, nor the person they thought he was. But then neither are Sara and Jason. Uh-oh. Directed by Kevin Lewis, written by Lacy McClory, Misdirection stars Frank Grillo, Olga Kurylenko, and Oliver Travana. Now, Misdirection, as I said, is a completely new style for Kevin. It's a bold, different work in his filmography. Now, we're so used to seeing horror films from him that he dazzles with this neo-noir home invasion crime thriller, which begs the question, how does directing a contained, non-horror film like Misdirection differ from multi-location films like Pig Hill and WILLY'S Wonderland? Now, as you'll hear, Kevin frames the difference as being driven entirely by what each script demands, not by genre labels like horror versus non-horror. But you can see and hear clear contrasts in how he talks about them. Now, for Misdirection, which is contained, a non-horror neo-noir thriller, it's about being trapped in one house where the house is a character. And with this, you're trapped in this house with these characters. and the idea that that house is a character, which that containment then pushes him towards handheld immediacy, tight close-ups, and ratcheting tension through faces, time, and space, rather than big, showy horror set pieces. The film was shot in 15 nights and leaned heavily on performance, blocking, reflections, and sound design to keep a single space visually and emotionally alive. Now, you've heard me talk about this before with many directors about keeping the audience visually engaged when you're in one room, one location. What do? You have to go into that cinematic toolbox and you got to pull out all the tools, but you have to be judicious in how you use them. Now, directing Misdirection differs less for Kevin because it's not horror, and more because it demands intimate, performance-driven, one-environment suspense versus the bigger location-driven, concept-y mechanics of a Pig Hill or a Willy's Wonderland. For Kevin, each film's geography dictates his directing muscles. Now, with Willy's, you're trapped in a pizza funland for kids, and which, by the way, today is National Pizza Day, people. So bear that in mind. With Misdirection, you're trapped in this glass house with 3 people who all might be lying to you. The locations are characters, but the way they create tension is completely different. The deeper we get into Misdirection, the more emotionally complex it becomes, and Kevin dives into how performance and action influenced the emotional tonal bandwidth of the overall film. For Kevin, he leans on performance first, something that is a standout when you look at his films, over the course of his filmography. He does lean into performance, even when there's straight up horror films, and this is what people want to see. You want to see the blood, you want to see the terror, you want to see visceral horror. Still, for Kevin, performance is first. Action is second to create that emotional complexity. The fights, particularly Misdirection, are really extensions of what the actors are already playing. Now, with performance driving the tone, Kevin really digs into talking about the film as quote-unquote primal and built on jealousy, anger, and dark emotions. Describing it as primal, and jealousy and anger and all these dark emotions kind of take over you. Every character thinks they're doing the right thing. They're the hero of their own story. This is where it gets fun when you see the film, because each one has a different story. And this is why he pushes into tight close-ups on faces. In this film, they are key. If you want to get tension, you do tight shots on a face. Nothing can substitute a face. And the emotional tonal bandwidth comes from watching micro shifts in the performances of Olga, Frank, and Oliver. When truth, lies, panic, and control fill the anamorphic frame. Yes, I said the word anamorphic. Now, when you break down the 3 characters, you've got Frank Grillo as David. Now, as the night unravels, Grillo does exactly what you want Frank Grillo to do in a pressure cooker thriller. He's razor sharp, coiled with danger, brings that smart, snarky edge that makes every verbal sparring a match feel like it could explode into violence. And typically with Frank Grillo, it does. Oliver Trevana, who he's the one that brought the film. This is how Kevin got the film, is because of Oliver. So he's wearing hats as producer and actor. And he turns Jason into more than a third wheel. He's wounded. He's a wounded wild card in this triangle, layering in charm, suspicion, and hurt in a way that keeps you constantly recalibrating whose side you're on. Oliver really keeps you guessing. And then there's Olga Kurylenko as Sara. Wow. This is Olga bare bones, stripped raw, stripped of her usual glamour. She is the film's emotional linchpin, letting every flicker of doubt, guilt, and resolve play naked on her face So you're never entirely sure whether to fear her, forgive her, or follow her. You know, violence is an outgrowth of the jealousy and anger boiling over, and Kevin wants you to ask, what would you do with each beat? He likes that every character thinks they're doing the right thing. But he wants you to think, what would you do if you were in this scenario? Now, as you're going to hear Kevin explain, the emotional tonal bandwidth widens as close-up driven performance reveals new layers and new lies. Physical confrontations erupt from those emotions, not the other way around. And the camera style, handheld tight in the room, traps us in that escalating emotional space. Now, working once again with his longtime editor, Ryan Liebert, Lewis starts Misdirection as a slow burn. Then he tightens the screws by cutting from wide glass-walled compositions into suffocating close-ups and ticking clock inserts, so the tension creeps up until the house feels as claustrophobic as any horror film. This is his first collaboration with cinematographer Matty Eric Cannon. I hope I said that right. He is a favorite DP of Rennie Harlan. But with Matty, Kevin found a partner who wasn't just chasing a cool look, which this film definitely has, but was moved by the script's emotional core, shaping Misdirection's handheld, anamorphic, glass and shadows aesthetic around the characters' inner lives. Every craft choice is in service of the jealousy, secrets, and morally gray areas. The glass house promises transparency, but hides pockets of darkness, which just fuels Matty's use of negative space. Handheld anamorphic keeps us trapped in real time with people who may be lying. Olga's stripped down look as Sara removes any glamour barrier between the audience and Sara's guilt, be it inflicted or self-perceived. And even Bob. Yes, we do have another character, and that is Bob. It is Sara's battered, stuffed dog. And Bob becomes a visual reminder of how love, hurt, and loyalty can coexist in the same fragile object. So, take a listen as Kevin Lewis breaks it all down for us and points us in the right direction with Misdirection.
Hi, Deb. How you doing?
I'm fine. It's been so long since we've chatted.
I know, right?
Well, you warned me that Misdirection was coming. You did tell me, and I have been anxiously awaiting it, and I am so happy it landed in my lap. What a different film for you than what we have seen. And I love it.
I'm glad. That's great. Made my day.
Thank you. On every level, Kevin, number one, your cast, you've got Grillo, you've got Olga, Oliver. Olga, I still remember her first English-speaking film, and I did a one-on-one sit-down with her. And to see where she's come through action over the years is fantastic. And, of course, Frank is just beyond reproach. Frank is going to be a snarky delight no matter what you give him.
He's great.
And Oliver is wonderful. So number one, you have a very contained cast here. More so than I think on any of your other films. It's primarily just the three of them, although we do get Jack and Julie. We have a couple others, and then people just filling up space in the gala room. But I love that you keep it so compact, and you are essentially in one location. And then which unlike Pig Hill, man, Kevin, this must be, a great relief to work like this with one multi-level location. And you steal Rennie's DP. You steal Matty.
Yeah.
How did you pull that off to steal Matty away from Rennie and bring him in for this? Because the look of this film, you've never done anything like this before. It's the beautiful shades of the inky blue black that just wash everything. Metaphorically, you're cloaking the cloak and dagger heist that's going on and all the noir secrets underneath there. You celebrate with moonlight coming through those floor-to-ceiling windows. Break this down for me, because this is just new for you, and I am thrilled.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, first of all, I got to start with Oliver, because Oliver was the one that produced this movie from the ground up, and most people call themselves producers, but Oliver is a true producer. He put every piece together. He brought in Olga and Frank. He got the script. He introduced me to Marty. I mean, everything. So kudos to Oliver for this movie. And working with Marty was amazing. I mean, we hit it off right. I was talking to a lot of different DPs. We shot this in Serbia, so I couldn't bring someone from the States. So I was talking to Serbian DPs, and Oliver worked with him on Bricklayer, and so I took a Zoom with him. And what I liked about him is, we like the same movies and things like that, but he liked the emotional core of the script. It really spoke to him, the ending. And I was like, okay, that's great, because, when you talk with a DP, you could talk about look and style and cameras and everything, but again, in the end of the day, it's the emotional core of what's going on with these characters. And that really spoke to him. He said he almost teared up. So I was like, all right, I know I have the right guy. So we just hit it off. And the idea of doing it all handheld almost, which was great, and anamorphic. When you read a script like this, it's contained, so you think, well, you don't really need to do widescreen. But I grew up in the cinemas of the 70s, 80s, and 90s movies. That's what I want to look. So we had a kind of vintage look to it as well with the lenses that we used. And, yeah, the idea that these characters are operating in the dead of night, so they don't really turn on lights. There's nothing. It's very, dark. And there's different colors of dark, right? There's black, there's blue, there's mixtures. And so we wanted to make this, as like the house is another character into itself. So we wanted to make this movie very sleek and slick and still, handheld, because you're with the characters. So I want to put the audience inside these rooms with these characters and what's going on. And I've always loved, high drama, plays, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, Zeus Story, things like that. The script reminded me of that. And it was the challenge if I can really rack up the tension and do it. And there's horror elements to this, but I love horror, but there's a lot of different shades that I want to do as a filmmaker, and so this was a great opportunity to exercise some different muscles, and lean into the more Hitchcockian thriller, Nicholas Winding Refn, who I love, and David Fincher, and Michael Mann. Those are the directors I really like to do a movie like this and to work with this cast. And they brought these characters to life. It was so much fun.
Well, I have to say, I mean, I love the fact that I love all the inky blues and blacks, the different shades that we get, which really is very similar to working in a black and white world, in a true noir world from the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s.
Yeah.
And you and Maddie make the most of negative space. And because of the lighting that he's designed, things like a jet black gun may go unnoticed.
Yeah.
We'll get a close-up, a quick close-up, a floor level. And this is where you guys excel with your blocking, and the fact that you're giving us some flat on the floor shots that you only get if somebody's down there on the floor with the camera and their cheek pressed to the floor to get some of these shots. And, of course, the way that you're Dutching, especially in the bedroom, and you've got Frank there, and always Olga as Sara. Sara she's the one in play. She holds all the cards. And this is where your metaphor is really strong, and also in building your tension, because she's the one with all the secrets. And we don't realize that until we're probably about, I'd say maybe 21 minutes in, 29 minutes in, particularly when Oliver's character, Jason, finds things in a dresser drawer. And that's when everything just explodes. And this is where your work with Ryan. Again, you can't do a film without Ryan as your editor. I'm sorry.
Ryan's great.
You can't. But this is where your editing is so key as we're cutting back and forth to the digital clock that David keeps looking at. So we know time's a factor here. Something is up, and it just builds the tension even more. And we cut to little things like a knife or a blood pool or the gorgeous reflections in that flooring. My God, Kevin, the house being a character and the shine on the floor and what the camera is reflecting back up, stunning. You get some real money shots there, which begs the question, as you said, that house is a character in the film. Did you build this up? Did you find this place? Is Serbia the new place of gorgeous architecture?
Well, there were a lot of different homes we looked at, and we found this house. And what was interesting is, in the script, there were a lot of things that, hearing through walls and things like that. And I knew whatever house we would get, we'd have to tailor the script to the house. So, like in the script, the swimming pool was outside, a big fight outside in the swimming pool. The swimming pool was inside the house, the bottom floor. So there were things that we had challenges that we had to change. But when I saw this house and the sexy modern vibe to it, and it felt like David would live here and he would own this house, that was the one I was like, we've got to shoot it, And Maddie and I worked really hard on, make sure reflections. That was very difficult, and shooting through glass. And we have to shoot at night. A lot of these movies, you'd be like, oh, let's tent the house, we'll shoot it during the day. Not this one. This was a pure glass house, and so you had to shoot it at night, and that provided different challenges. But once I saw this house, I knew that was our movie. That was what we were looking for, that modern, steely look, that I want to give it to. Like I said, the movies like Michael Mann and, David Fincher and all that. And then you throw in these great performances, and these characters and what's going, and they're at each other's throat constantly through the whole movie. And using that clock as time, and real time, and that's why I shot it handheld, because I want that immediacy, that everything's going down right now, right then, and putting the audience right there with the characters.
Shooting it handheld, definitely the way to go in this one. And had I seen this house, I would have been jumping up and down right there with you. Yes, we have to shoot here. We have to shoot here.
Yeah.
And people don't realize it's very, very tricky when you're shooting through glass, when you're trying to get reflection of glass, and then creating moonlight. Because obviously you didn't have a full moon the entire time you were shooting at night.
Yeah.
So that you did have to bring in some lighting to manufacture. But
yes,
really visually tricky. Very tricky. But you also set up with all that glass, with a glass house. You set this up beautifully because it looks like we're seeing everything. But at the same time, you're playing with the negative space within the house. And we're not seeing everything. And we certainly are not seeing everything that's going on with Sara. Even poor Jason doesn't know what's going on with Sara.
Yes.
And when we do get a reveal, how challenging was it for you and Ryan to bring us up to build that tension until we do get to that explosive reveal scene where we find out the truth of what's going on? And even then, we aren't sure of the truth because who's lying and who's playing who?
Yeah. I mean, that was the whole talk we had is basically, we got to ratchet the tension. We do a slow burn in the opening, and then you start getting into the world, and once they get into the house, everything just starts going haywire, especially when he shows up and everything. So the idea is that these close-ups that we do, if you look at the movie, we do these kind of wide shots, then I start moving in closer and closer. And at the end of the movie, when everything, like you say, who's telling what, you've got these really tight shots, and I love these tight shots. We're going like 100 mil lens, getting right up there, and just seeing every little thing, and that's again back to the movies that we talk about, 80s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and that's shooting on anamorphic and getting the face fills that frame. And if you want to get tension, you do tight shots. And a face, nothing can substitute a face.
No.
For me, it's all in the eyes and what's going on there, and so and we're in a small room, so it's like, what are you going to do? So again, pulling the page out of Hitchcock, and just tension and what you see and what you don't see, and what you hear. We worked really hard on the audio, sound design for this movie, especially that third act, and what happens, and it becomes kind of this hellish world that they're in, that she brought onto herself, so the house was a character, and I knew we had to get an amazing house, because we're in this whole movie takes place in it. So you can't let the audience get bored, right? So you have to have something that's just as good as these characters that you're having on screen. The house is a character.
And something else that really works for you well here, and I'm just tickled that you went this route. We are so used to seeing Olga glammed up, no matter what film she's in. Here, she is anything but glammed up. There's no false eyelashes. There's no lipstick. She is, and she's still beautiful. Plain. Yeah. Olga's beautiful.
Yeah. Natural beauty. Yes.
But the fact that we really see her so emotionally raw, and it's reflected. That's her natural state. Whatever this pain is that she's carrying, she's not masking it. And I just so commend you for going with the natural, minimal, no makeup look on her, because it just adds so many layers to Sara.
Absolutely, and if you're going to go rob a place or whatever, you're not going to be glammed up, So again, keeping that emotional core and what really would happen with these characters if they did this, and that was always in front of my mind. I know we're going to make it look good, we're going to make it cinematic and everything, but at the end of the day, it's about this emotional core, this thread that these characters share, and you got to be true to that. So I'm glad you liked that, because I was really happy. I loved the haircut we had with her, like the whole thing. It's just a different look from her from other movies. It stands out for sure.
And she looks great with bangs. She really does. Now, you have another cast member here that is part of the heart of this film, of this story. And that is that poor bedraggled stuffed dog.
Yeah.
How different. And now I know I have a poor bedraggled pink teddy bear that I've had since the day I was born. So he's almost 68 years old. And he looks damn fine. But I know how difficult it is when you have to find something that has that lived-in, lifelong look of a stuffy that has been loved so dearly, but still so cared for. How challenging was it to find the proper stuffed dog for this film?
Well, again, the Serbian production was fantastic on this movie, and they would bring me a lot of different choices, and I think we had like 6 or 7 different things. And I don't, Deb, again, when I make movies, I just go with my gut. Mm-hmm. And when I saw the one, I was like, that's it, I just feel like, I don't know, it just spoke to me, and I showed it to Olga, and she was like, yes. So I was like, great. So and that was it,
And he looks like a Bob.
Yeah.
Yeah. With the floppy ears. But I love the fact that instead of these multiple locations, you've got the one location happening here. For you as a director, do you have a preference whether you're shooting something like Pig Hill with multiple locations, or something is contained as this is? Willy's Wonderland was contained to a degree, but not like Misdirection.
Yeah. It's all on the story and the script and what these characters are going through. So, with Pig Hill, that's what that story demanded, and same with Willy's. You're trapped in a pizza fun land for kids, right? So with this, you're trapped in this house with these characters, and the idea that house is a character, and Willie's is a character, right?
Yeah.
And with Hill, those locations are characters too, especially with Swill's cage. So
Oh God, yeah.
I look at locations. I'm very in tune on locations. It's always about that space you're putting those actors in to make believe that they're these characters and what's going on. So, that's what these scripts, they called for. So I'm really happy with the house and the look of Misdirection. Though we shot this movie in 15 nights, and
Wow.
it was just it was a wild time, but it was great. I enjoyed the heck out of it.
And as action heavy as this film is, and we're not talking, guns blazing action, we're talking man on man, woman on man action, hand to hand combat, contained within a house. So that is beyond time intensive.
Yeah, I love the primal vibe to it,
Yeah.
right? Like it's very primal, and it's jealousy and anger and all these dark emotions that kind of take over you, and it just ratchets up all what these characters, and there's a lot of gray in it. I mean, every character thinks they're doing the right thing. They're the hero of their own story, okay? And so, putting the audience now, what would you do if you were in this scenario, in this case? And do you think this person's telling the truth or whatever? That was what's exciting about doing this movie.
Look, Bob is the hero. No matter what, Bob is the hero.
Yeah.
Let's just cut to the chase there. So, one last question for you, Kev. Are we going to talk again later this year? Anything coming after Misdirection?
Yeah, I'm working on a movie called Driver with Jeremy Piven and Colleen Camp and Caitlin Kemp, and that movie's it's more of a throwback in a way to Willie's. It's about a limo driver in the '90s who picks up a group of kids going to prom, and let's just say he doesn't take them to the dance. But it's a fun movie. I'm working on that right now.
Ooh, well, I can't wait for that one, and a throwback to a Willie's kind of film. But you're as adept at something like Misdirection as you are with Willie's, The Accursed, Pig Hill. You are proving time and again you can do it all, Kevin.
Thank you. You made my day with that. Thank you so much, Deb. I really appreciate it.
And if you sucked, I would tell you that too.
I know you would.
Kevin, thank you. I know you have to run. It's been wonderful as always chatting with you.
Absolutely. You take care. We'll talk soon.
And that was Kevin Lewis discussing Misdirection, which you can see starting tomorrow, Tuesday, February 10th on digital. This is a taut, tense, action-packed film that I think you'll enjoy. And as you were listening, did you catch Kevin's tidbit for us about his upcoming film Driver, starring Jeremy Piven, which Kevin describes as being in the vein of Willy's Wonderland? Looking out for that one. Hopefully Kevin and I will be chatting again later this year about Driver. Now, we have some time, so how about a bit more Oscar trivia for you this week as we count down to Oscar Sunday, March 15th, 2026. I still question holding the Oscars on the Ides of March, but that's just me. I mean, we all know what happened to Julius Caesar on that date. Now, I've been seeing more bars on social media making mention of trivia nights upcoming, and even restaurants, such as in the LA area, Factors Deli on Pico. Factors has been having Monday trivia nights, and they're family oriented even, and they're early, I think 6 or 7 o'clock. They alternate with bingo night. So, but then there are lots of bars, and especially now the Super Bowl is over and done with, thank God. So I can now go back to my favorite bar, the Backstage Bar and Grill, without all the Seahawks fans trashing the place. But I know that a lot of the bars will be tossing in, that have trivia nights, they're going to be tossing in Oscar questions, as well as some Olympic questions. So hopefully you're all watching the Olympics now as well. So, but here are a few fun Academy Award factoids for you about the 98th Academy Awards. And it looks like I've gone female-centric this week. I don't know why. But did you know that some nominees still have to be determined in terms of the producers, because you can only have X amount of names and you've got who contributed what. So the final count, the tally is not complete yet. But as of right now, a record 74 women are currently nominated this year for Oscar. The previous record of 71 was set in 2023. Now, for the 7th consecutive year, at least one film nominated for Best Picture has been directed by a woman. Chloe Zhao's nomination for Hamnet is the 11th directing nomination for a woman, and she is the second woman to receive multiple directing nominations, following Jane Campion. Now, Diane Warren, our beloved Diane Warren. She may be the Susan Lucci of Oscars. She's an original song nominee for Dear Me from the documentary about her, Diane Warren, Relentless. She's nominated for the 9th year in a row, which now brings her total nominations, without a win, in the category to 17. She's third overall in the category after Johnny Mercer, who had 18 nominations, and Sammy Cahn with 26. And I don't know if I mentioned this before, but Sammy Cahn, I didn't realize it until a short time ago. Sammy Cahn wrote the theme music for the hit sitcom of the 60s, Hazel. Who knew? Diane did receive an honorary award in 2022, which sadly, it was destroyed when her house burned down in the Palisades fire. But the Academy is replacing it, as they are with all Oscar winners who lost their awards due to the Palisades and the Eaton fires last year. Now, Autumn Durald Arkapaw is the 4th woman to be nominated for cinematography. Her nomination is for Sinners, which I got to tell you, if you haven't seen the film, see it. It is stunning. Now, previous nominees are Rachel Morrison, whose work I have loved for years. She was nominated for Mudbound back in 2017. Ari Wegner was nominated in 2021 for The Power of the Dog. And then Mandy Walker, who can do no wrong as far as I'm concerned, was nominated for Elvis in 2022. And Charmaine Chan becomes the 6th woman to be nominated in the visual effects category, with her nomination along with her teammates for Jurassic World Rebirth. So, a few more Oscar factoids for you can dazzle your friends with. But that is all the time we have today. Check out Misdirection tomorrow. And my theatrical recommendation this week is Luc Besson's Dracula. I'm in love with this film. Besson has crafted this as a timeless love story that spans 400 years, and it is simply beautiful. The craftsmanship is fantastic. Performances are wonderful. Something I didn't expect to say about Caleb Landry Jones as my beloved Count Dracula. Now, anybody that knows me knows of my love for all of the Dracula films. The very first film I ever saw, I was 4 years old, and I saw the original Nosferatu with my father. He had managed to get a print somewhere and sat in my bedroom in our house in Northeast Philadelphia at the time when I was 4, and we watched it. It's also how I learned about shadow puppets. Just saying. But I have been obsessed with Dracula films, vampires, ever since then. So for me to fall in love this much with Besson's Dracula, wow, it says a lot. Of course, I still prefer Luke Evans' Dracula, his Count Vlad in Dracula Untold. I like him even better than Frank Langella. Just putting it out there. And of course, Christoph Waltz as the priest tracking down Dracula just brings such great snarky humor, as he always does, to a role. So see it. It is totally unexpected. There are musical numbers in here Danny Elfman's score, I think, is one of Danny's best scores ever. It is exquisite, just exquisite. But I highly recommend Dracula. And again, if you haven't gone to the theater yet to see it, see The Strangers Chapter 3. It closes out Rennie Harlin's trilogy. Just some good stuff out there. And now you have another great little indie to look forward to. Now, no show next week, unless I get motivated, due to the President's Day holiday. But I'll definitely be back on the 23rd with more interviews and movies to discuss. And until then, I'm Debbie Elias. This is Behind the Lens.